Hello my dear friends. Energy forecast for October 2020. According to the results of September, I immediately foresee a discrepancy. One say that everything worked out for them in a difficult September and all plans came true. Others claim that a lot of things have collapsed and nothing new has grown together. Oddly enough, both are right in their assessments, because we live in different realities, orientations towards the formation of a strong and independent personality. Each strong personality has borne fruit or builds its own reality which controls according to the laws of the three-dimensional world. A poorly formed personality exists in group reality, also different, which this personality protects and guides, although a strong personality also creates their own groups. However, there are those whose reality intersects in many respects with a higher vibrational reality, and their successes in life are associated with reasons lying deeper. One way or another, the interaction of numerous individual and group realities often creates chaos, especially then couples hell. This process is fueled by energy tension, such as September. I already said in a previous forecast that in such tense periods one should hold on to the inner energy core, constantly disassemble the accumulated experience in all its forms, and discard all unnecessary and insignificant analysis of the contents of the backpack of life. Is a very instructive activity. When you understand how much irrelevant to you and yourself we continue to bear, the tendency of sorting the accumulated experience with the dumping of no longer applied experience will continue in October. However, in parallel with this tendency, another direction will arise. What to do with the topic later, which we leave as the most adequate and in demand, is how to apply it to transitional conditions that continue to change. From stability we are moving more turbulence, from harmony to temporary disharmony, which should at some point turn into harmony of the next level. All our beliefs, the rule of the norm, is going through a process of transformation, and not the same as we got used to within certain frameworks known to us. This is something new that frightens us, with uncertainty and unpredictability. What in such a situation should the poor person do? Where to go? To whom to blame? Because we did not ask for these changes. Although if you think about, for a couple of decades, esotericists simply prayed for the transition and therefore called for the motto of October. Just our usual completely human slogan, what to do and who is to blame. As we see in this maxim, there are two aspects and everyone is free to choose the closest to him. The first question is closer to him, and therefore doing. That is, an active position by the other to researcher, to search for the guilty. Although this can also be called doing, but it's not the department's distraction. Most people will continue to engage in this search, habitually shifting responsibility for their lives to other people, family, government. A smaller part of people will prefer to take responsibility for everything they think, they feel, and that they make a clear choice in favor of what to do. This will allow it for them to become an adults, to move on into adulthood. The choice of two options topic in the current situation about who is to blame for what is happening on the planet. Not in the sense of our three-dimensional world. Everything is clear here, since we ourselves are to blame for what our modern world is like, but with the global planetary sense. Here I am, ready to call the guilty quotes. These are the higher worlds that, in accordance with your plans, set in motion, the purpose of which the transition to a new level. At the moment, this large-scale movement covers our planet and its inhabitants. Perhaps the planet, as esotericists like to say, gave its consent to the changes taking place, but the planetary consciousness did not inform this decision to each individual person, assuming that our majority, even notified of them, will continue to do their three-dimensional affairs. The most curious still wanted to understand what is happening and how they can fit into this process. And for them I'm writing October after August, September, to demonstrate the prevalence of interests of higher plans, in the form of the leading role of the great central sun, which in October energetically dominates and directs the energy of our solar system in the right direction. Unlike September, these two energies will form parallel trends that can be interpreted as a kind of parity in the implementation of their own programs. As a certain degree of independence of these two, the most powerful driving forces of current changes in October, the energy of the Earth will be focused on its own transformation in the first and second dimensions, continues the tendencies of September and August, sorting of planetary records, in order to return to a certain point of the original plan of planetary development, from where, apparently, new ones will not develop in a certain plan. with the chronicles of the development of mankind, respectively. These chronicles will also be touched upon within the framework of the question of the vector of development of human society, which means that we will face serious social and economic upheavals associated with the choice of a further path in all spheres of our manifestation of the economy, politics, society and even philosophy and culture. At least humanity will continue to constantly face small and large crises in these areas, which indirectly indicates that we are entering or have already reached a dead end from which it is difficult to get out of the old ways. The number of knots of tension in October, 50, is a little, but they amaze with their peculiarities. The first 32 knots are concentrated on a short period of time from October 2nd to 9. In such a number, these knots and tensions will undoubtedly give rise to multiple conflicts between groups of people with a developed level of consciousness and carriers of the so-called mass consciousness, most likely, the interest of these two large-scale groups to collide both in the field of beliefs and morality and in the material areas of life. For example, on social and financial issues, the discrepancy between these two levels of consciousness is constantly increasing. Misunderstanding, rejection of hostility between people with different approaches in life. The mass consciousness will demonstrate a lack of consistency of thinking, lack of common sense, planning of cause and effect relationships, which of course contributes to the strengthening of general chaos, including in the behavior of people. Chaotic fragmentary pixel thinking will more and more affect the work of electronic devices that function partially in the range of electromagnetic waves inherent in our brain. House in the brains will strengthen the house around us. People with a developed and stable consciousness will be able to resist this chaos, including due to the time of identity with the mass consciousness and distance from social structures of the old type. But this will also give rise to new problems of interaction between people. I would say that from the point of view of energy in the specified period of the third dimension, an even more obvious conflict with the fifth will enter, which gradually penetrates into our consciousness with the aim of its further development vertically. On this fifth dimension, meditate. This will strengthen your energy's emotional bodies and will create at the very inner support with which you can resist in the world of chaos, and the lack of common sense of the energy of the fifth dimension will help you transform your mental beliefs and emotional reactions, as well as disassemble the subconscious experience according to the higher criteria of evolution. The remaining 18 knots of tension from 20 to October till 30 will occur in a slightly different range from the 4th to the 8th dimension, and this will also affect people with developed consciousness. The carriers of mass consciousness will not feel this, however, under the pressure of the mixed forces of the great central sun, and also taking into account the study of the planetary universal human chronicles of Akasha, these people will face serious life situations, and in an even worse form than before. Calculating the planetary spread of the corona of the virus and the socio-economic consequences caused by it, these situations, as can be assumed, will be associated with the loss of work, of family finances, health, and so on. Although the focus of life of such people is not to move to the point of survival, the root chakra with all the ensuing consequences in the third decade of October, people with developed consciousness resonate with the 8th dimension. The space of their tasks, their incarnation, will be able to reach a new level of awareness of their role in the upcoming changes that characterize the transition period. I note that in the solar system in October, the sun will give the main and manner in the giant planets to their development and interactions. However, the second focus of attention will be paid to the relationship between the Earth and Jupiter. At the very end of the month, I think that a new adjustment of the Earth's energy is supposed to be here under the influence of the programs of the Sun and Jupiter. Responsible for large-scale collective changes at the end of September became the possibility of reading the first shoots of a new transitional period. The so-called emptiness allows you to look into it and reflect the embryos of future development by our consciousness. Under certain conditions, namely when our energy bodies incarnation are maximally connected with embroidered rows, the bodies of the soul and spirit and all connections between the bodies are brought into a state of integrity. To achieve such a state, I recommend meditating on the manifestation of 9 and 8 chakras in your bodies, as in September. In October the fire element will become the leading one and the earth element will follow. It alone does not make room for a new one, and the element of the earth will give ground for new sprouts. These two powerful verses will also manifest themselves in fires and earthquakes. At the end of September, the reign of the constellation Libra began, which means carefully balancing and weighing values, and achieving the necessary balance between pairs of opposites. The main note of this energy of building relationships in all senses ourselves with people with social structures, with higher forces from the planet, if they encourage us to gain experience and contemplative balanced positions, and fit the current period as well as possible, which is a transitional period here. Sharp insane movements are clearly contraindicated from, and imply awareness of life through meditation, through conscious contemplation of weighing. When the life of the soul and form is balanced, the contemplative nature of the energy of the scales is emphasized by the energy of the constellation of crows, which, however, carries the impulse of transformations. The subconscious mind, and from our position, call how much we can work it out, and free ourselves from the severity of the past experience, of the constellation Scorpio with its fixed cross, the quality of interaction, and control of the constellations of the higher zodiac Manus, transforms the achieved balance into action. The fixed cross of the classical esoteric tradition means the implementation of the creative process by the godson. Scorpio is often called a sign of discipleship. That is, it determines the path of the student, taking into account the ongoing transitional processes. This is the path for those who are ready not only to teach to create, but also to create according to the higher will in new circumstances. I would like to note, following Alice Bailey, that human action on something that unfolds on the higher planes just triggers many processes and activates higher energies that, without this interaction, remain completely unmanifested, so that human participation in these processes is necessary for the implementation of a higher plan, and this meaning October will be an excellent platform for us. In the meantime, dear subscribers of the world, repair your DNA. If working on yourself creates you difficulty, we invite you to learn about yourself and your power from Abundance Handbook. You will find the healing guides that will help you figure out how to work with energies. We'll give you tools and keys. How quickly go from 3-dimensional reality to 5th dimension of consciousness. Link to Abundance Handbook you will find under this video only. Love Abundance Handbook.